Wednesday, August 24, 10:08. My name is Rick Nez, Chair of RDC. Hi, could you do the roll call, please?
Good morning, Chair, members of RDC. This is roll call for Resource and Development Committee of the 24th Navajo Nation Council. Regular meeting for Wednesday, August 24th, 2022 at 10 a.m. Roll call. Honorable Ricky Nez.
Delegate Rick Nez is present.
Honorable Rick Nez is present. Honorable Thomas Walker Jr.
I'm present.
Honorable Thomas Walker Jr. is present. Honorable Key Allen Begay Jr.
Delegate Key Allen's present.
Honorable Key Allen Begay Jr. is present. Honorable Herman M. Daniels.
Present.
Honorable Herman M. Daniels present. Honorable Mark A. Freeland.
Good morning, Freeland's present. Thank you.
Honorable Mark A. Freeland is present. Honorable Wilson C. Stewart Jr. Honorable Wilson C. Stewart Jr.
Present.
Honorable Wilson C. Stewart Jr. is present. Chair, you have 6 members available, which establishes a quorum. Back to you, Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Tahi. We're on invocation. Honorable Freeland, could you do the prayer for us? Nanta. Honorable Freeland.
Chairman, I'm here. Good morning.
Okay.
I apologize. I was on mute. It'll be my honor to have this morning's invocation. And good morning to my colleagues. Good morning to our staff, and good morning to all of our Navajo Nation employees, as well as our Navajo Nation people out there this morning listening to our committee call. Definitely appreciate everyone's attendance and, of course, participation in this discussion today. Everyone has their own way of prayer, and everyone has their own way of acknowledgement. Everyone has their own way of giving thanks and continual blessings. And every day I always think that when we open our eyes, we're blessed with new opportunities and new hope, forgiven and asking for that forgiveness. But more importantly, having a lot of our people on our minds. So I want to just kind of reflect on that with this prayer this morning as well. Our most heavenly Father, our gracious God, our Creator, our Redeemer, our Savior, most merciful one, Father, we thank you for bringing us together once more at this most important time, Father. We thank you for your continual blessings that you bestow upon each and every one of us at this time, at this moment, at this hour, Father. We thank you for this livelihood, for our lives, for our families, for everything that you bless us are continually each and every day, Father. We ask you to give us courage, give us strength, give us opportunity, give us hope, give us renewal at this time, Father, as we turn to you and seek your guidance and your wisdom, Father. We also pray for all of our people at this time, all of our Navajo people who are battling ailments, Father. Help heal them and give them hope at this time. All of our veterans as well who are battling ailments, whether that's physical or mental ailments, Father, give them hope and strength and heal them and give them a path to renewal as well, Father. All of our elders who are maybe feeling lonely at this time, who give them hope as well and give them happiness and help them, guide them through this day, Father, and give them that opportunity to smile today, Father. We pray for all of our children as well as they are in school, learning and getting their minds set for the future, Father. They are our future leaders of tomorrow. We continue to give you that praise and glory each and every day as we ask and pray for all of our people at this time. We ask you to bless our leadership and pray for our leadership, our President, Jonathan Nez, our Vice President, Myron Leiser, our Speaker, Seth Damon, our members of the 24th Navajo Nation Council, our Chief Justice, Joanne Jane, and the Associate Justices of the Navajo Nation Supreme Court, all of the district judges, all of our first responders, Navajo Nation Police, our Navajo Nation Fire, Navajo Nation EMS, all of our Navajo Nation employees as well throughout this land, Father. We ask you to protect each and every one of us and guide us and give us the strength to carry on and fulfill our duties and responsibilities to our people at this time, Father. We also continue to pray for all those who are hurting right now in the ailments of COVID-19 right now, as we ask you to guide them and give them a path to healing and renewal, Father. Give them hope. Those families that have lost loved ones as well, may they find eternal peace. May they find guidance. May they always be blessed as well, Father, as we continue to think of them each and every day and pray for them as well. Through these things, through these prayers, Father, we offer you. We continue to pray for each and every one of us during this hour, at this moment, at this time. Father, forgive us of any sins or any trespasses that we may have forgone, because we know we are not perfect, but when we do fall in despair, we know we can turn to you and ask you for that forgiveness, Father. Forgive us at this time and have mercy on us. Father, we will continue to ask these things each and every day as we look to you for the strength, for the guidance, for the wisdom that you continue to bless upon us each and every day. We will continue to pray for all of our people at this moment, at this hour, and at this time, and think of them and keep them in our prayers and regards as well. Keep everyone safe today, Father. Keep them on those who are traveling on the road, those who are traveling throughout the Navajo Nation and throughout this great land. Keep everyone safe. When we ask you this simple task, Father, for this prayer of strength, wisdom, renewal, courage, and forgiveness. We will continue to offer these things and ask these things through your Son, Jesus Christ, by way of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. Thank you, Chairman.
Honorable Freeland, Nakhatsadan, Zanigishi, Korob, and Nasha, and Hinchikation, Lego, Atlantic, Needle. Certainly appreciate your prayer. We're on announcements. Mr. Tahi, any announcements for us?
Chair, members of RDC, at 1 o'clock today, Navajo Nation will have a Navajo Nation Special Council session that it will be conducted via Zoom. As for next week's agenda, on Monday, August 29th, we have a leadership meeting to conduct a site tour of Westwater community on the lack of infrastructure and housing. NHA, Land Department, General Land Development Department, and Community Development have been invited to attend this meeting. On Tuesday, August 30th, the leadership meeting to conduct the Black Mesa Mines Tour and Kayenta Mines Tour will need to be rescheduled, as the individuals who are participating in this leadership meeting will have an inspector bond release that they are required to attend to. So we will reschedule that meeting. Then on Wednesday, August 31st and September 1st is the NABI committee's budget session. So we will need to cancel or reschedule RDC's regular meeting that's supposed to take place on Wednesday, March 31st at 10 a.m. Then on Friday, September 2nd at 9 a.m., we have a leadership meeting with CKP Insurance to discuss the updates on the forage range plans, as well as the insurance policy. I extended an invitation to Budget and Finance Committee to participate and to join RDC on Friday, September 2nd. Chair, members of RDC, that is my announcement. Back to you, Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Tahi. So we have no meeting on the 30th then, huh, Mr. Tahi?
Chair, members of RDC, we don't have a meeting scheduled on the 30th. However, I have been in communications with Intech, and if RDC in this body recalls that we are supposed to reschedule a meeting to go back out there to discuss the land transfer from Intech to Nunazad, I believe it was, so that way we can do the land swap. This meeting would occur on this day if this body will allow me to move forward with rescheduling that meeting to move it to the 30th as well. Chair, members of RDC, back to you.
Thank you, Mr. Tahi, for that. Honorable members of RDC, do you have any announcements? I hear none. Honorable Daniels, go ahead.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair, Vice Chair.
colleagues. Arin the kudo, Celia kudo, Delegate Freeland kudo, Isha kudo, Kurzunha, Hain Z kudo, Ishin kudo, the Neil Zentole kudo. I don't know kudo, I just want to say thank you, kudo, to my colleagues, kudo, Chairman Nez, kudo, the other day. Nagay halchit khate etlati tlinki AIC ba hen kudo. I don't know kudo nagay yesterday nagay Montezuma Creek, Utah. Mase etlati tlinso kudo along with my little brother kudo Delegate Stewart. And the kudo Navajo Utah Commission Office akwegi. Akwa etlati tlinto we utilized their conference room so kudo AIC here. And the kudo I didn't go on the tour. I could not get out. Oh, yeah, I didn't get the destination from without them colleagues and also staff. Without them, Mr. Tahi, Nana, Mr. Mose. Yeah, go on and talk without. Eddie, I know about this. Without other than that, Eddie, I get that without that. Mr. Chair, thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable Daniels. We certainly learn a lot more about our other communities like Halchitha. The Nebanada Hashil Zangiba Lido and Chido, and to really understand the elk petroleum operation over there in Anna. So that was good. Yeah. And honorable members of RDC, any other announcements?
Chairman Freeland.
Honorable Freeland.
Thank you, Chairman. Colleagues and staff, good morning again. Chairman, a recommendation, and maybe to Mr. Tahi as well. I did send out a text this morning to you all related to the Navajo Nation Fair, related to the equine requirements. I'm getting a lot of messages from my area, and of course, Crown Point is the bulldogging capital of the Navajo Nation. So I'm getting messages related to the fair, and I think we should probably get an update. And some of my constituents are asking about, where was this also imposed during the 4th of July celebration? So I don't know if we can get a report, an update, maybe next week if we can, related to that. There was I did send out to all of our colleagues via text, just to see and get some clarification on that. Yesterday, I also held a regional chapter ARPA work session with my chapters at White Rock, and it was very, very good. And I really appreciate the BIA, the Land Department, as well as Division Community Development. There's two things that we really need to kind of work on our area, and this was brought up, I think, by our colleagues as well. How are we going to handle home site leases? How are we going to deal with those situations where we have our people that need bathroom additions or need electrical or water lines? In our case, we also have to deal with allotment leases too. How are we going to handle those home site leases for our people that don't have a home site lease, but are also entitled or should be getting basic infrastructure given to them? Not only in Eastern Agency, but throughout the Navajo Nation as well. That was a really good question. I think we kind of left with yesterday. And of course, Eastern Agency we have 23 different land statuses, and a lot of the majority of our discussion related to rights of way. And the other thing, maybe as a RDC, we could also have a discussion on maybe with Mike Colonna, is the imposition of fee to trusts. We have a lot of fee land on eastern side, and if we could convert a lot of that fee land to trust, that would be really helpful to our chapters. And I asked our chapters yesterday to kind of start thinking about those areas in particular where there's fee land. Department of Interior does have some funds to help convert those lands over to trust land. So that's another thing I kind of put on my radar as well yesterday, Chairman. Just some feedback and some thoughts for RDC, and definitely appreciate your support continually out there in Eastern Agency. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Honorable Freeland. What we can do is when we get down to the agenda approval,
Perhaps if you would like to, we can get a report from the fair office, but we do have a special session today at 1 o'clock, or we can put it on the next RDC meeting. Since next Wednesday is Nabigiyet, we won't have an RDC meeting, but we could schedule one perhaps on the 1st, on a Thursday, if we need to have a special session, if there's any legislations that are pressing, and a report. But we can also schedule a separate leadership meeting with the fair office to give us an update on the 4th of July celebration they had, as well as the upcoming Navajo Nation Fair and the restrictions that are placed on it. So we could do that during the agenda, Mr. Honorable Freeland. So any other announcements? Oh, none. We'll go down to number 2. Honorable Vice Chair Walker, go ahead.
Yes, and showing although committee members though, I don't think staff. I don't think that is do Nikido and Hidnedo and Handal should not so. It's not a wheelne. So there's Indigo Chicago. But I can't so this Che Honorable Freeland. These the Dana and Shadaliagi RTC a toward Adagilagi Shadadoko again Sayad and liquid Kahanit in the Takashed in the Quadia late Little Colorado River in Linigi to a Hadet paint or what a does not only Nana Ataho. Quite get talky beneath at the listening. I let us know he a teaching agent, but now he's a look quite talky next at the later, but was is George does listening. Don't let the kid that not gonna echo a non stow and how the has link. The Jeda none at just put at land has Sunday in Nago. Just an ago the adding it does Ledo, it that the Ledo the way to the Colorado River does Leco. But yeah, it's not hot. I call a non snadan to teach question the Saturday. I just kiss jaw. We can't it in it's a but let's hitle totally. Or did it in the feed the trust land, Johan no, should say Honorable Freeland, ya Johan Nahat to Nahayat to the heat out a one to the kiss quite Navajo Nation owned fee lands, trust land that all as these free lands are off reservation and somewhere close to our homeland called a Ajita. The flooding situations and the need to have additional land, maybe higher ground, so to speak, for safety for our people. Just 400,000 plus Navajos need it. I large ban Sahakis, DK, Ojanas, and Zila. They deal in hidden Epa. And so yet over this quite announcing the situation and agreeing with our colleague here, Honorable Freeland, with the need to look to our lands that we own for use, homeland, Bidot, Ato, and Hikeya. That is hidden Epa. It don't have a decision on Ato. I hope to get this on the agenda also to have a really good discussion from our land department and Division of Natural Resources. I did write a letter to the President and DNR and Land Department focusing on this need. Nada halnetla. What caution adult adult Johnson share. Na oka lit out adole di bandit ni the bazonal sabaka adil not ani but or even in hidden oversight nanta ala bahna that di Johnson yeah one so she has said or
Thank you. Honorable Vice Chair Walker. You're all more than welcome to make an amendment to the agenda to add any reports or request a separate leadership meeting. Are there any other announcements? I hear none. And I will move down to number 2, recognizing guests and visiting officials. Let's just have introductions for all, starting with honorable members of RDC. Honorable Vice Chair Walker.
Yes, Chairman, committee members, staff, listening audience, though meeting participants. Again, good morning. This is Thomas Walker Jr. I represent City, Loop, Talani, Lake Cameron, and Coal Mine Canyon chapters out here in Western Agency. I don't know. Shiniki to Shin Hinch. In Petroni to the Chini, but Shin to Sofish Cheda, Edo, Tadishki Dashinala. What do I serve on the Resource Development Committee as the Vice Chairman?
Thank you, Honorable Vice Chair Walker. Honorable Keelan Begay Jr.
Good morning, Chairman. First, Anani National Kiani, that's a Zabit, that's a chair of this Chini, that's another. 5 chapters, Low Mountain, Tachibugap, Salanikan with Nalrini, Adomini Funds. Chairman, thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Begay. Honorable Daniels.
Thank you. Kudo Chairman Nance, Kudo Vice Chair Walker, Ssbci, Kudo Shinat Shonigi RDC members, just staff, Kudo. Gadi, Kudo Shama. For Kudo today, Herman Daniels Jr. It's an inch. It's a cheat was the same. Not created network yet, Linda should say. I don't ask how to Nala. I don't know what on a great panas. Ssbci, not the on or jet or santo, I don't that application. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Daniels. Honorable Freeland.
Chairman, good morning, colleagues and staff. Good morning again. I wanted just to, of course, say good morning to all and wish everyone a blessed day. Ssbci Mark Freeland, Shiero, Aradotlingi Tutsoni, Snora Kia Ani, Ssbci Sanji Canada, Aratsana Bethany, Edishanella. I represent 8 chapters out of Eastern Agency, Crown Point, Don Hajishki, I Besenti, White Rock, Lake Valley, Herfano, and Nyaza. Good morning to one and all. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Honorable Freeland. Honorable Stewart.
Good morning, Chairman. Vice Chair, Arashinaka, those staff, so Mr. Moses, Yato, Shimam's Khan, Aron, he's from today with our RDC meeting. I thought honestly, Wilson, Sister Junior, Inch, Twits on the Angel and touching a bush chain, touching the shade up between the Schnella. But had the Shaggy itself, so like she twins a little buses for the Resource Development Committee at the 24th Navajo Nation Council. Our meeting and our day off like that. I'll get the leads in. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Stewart. Rick Nez in Shia Washanan, or Zay Touching, Bush's chain. Sen habesn da Chedo, Kia Ani Dashinal Guide and then Schnedo has Tonga chapters, Banash Nishige, Hogback, San Juan, and Hanzar, Upper Fulton, Burnham, and Newcomb. welcome everybody. Let's go to staff, Mr. Tahi.
Good morning, Chair, members of RDC, and those online. My name is Rodney Tahi. I'm the Legislative Advisor for Resource and Development Committee. I'm Kia'ani and Senchikina, and I'm originally from Steamboat, Arizona. And I want to say thank you, Delegate Freeland, for that beautiful prayer to start off the day. Back to you, Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Tahi. Mr. Mose.
Morning, Chair. This is like Mose. Kulturen Nasha is long and I Bashis Chin. Ashi Chidot Hoban Nationale. Welcome everyone.
Thank you. Ms. Khan.
Good morning. Yacht Air Resources and Development Committee members, Donald Finigi, and all those on the call listening in and participating. Thank you very much for your attention. She Mariana Khan Dashajene, Donna and Nishlinigi a Tohiad Lini Nishne, Dahi Bashis Chin, Ashchi Dashache, Senji Kenneth Dashana, Bakut Awa Sun Nishne. And thank you so much, Mr. Freeland, for your beautiful prayer. Always lifts my heart to hear beautiful words and see them in my mind. Thank you very much. I will be on the call listening, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Khan. Yakin Yates from Speaker's Office.
Good morning, Chairman Nez and honorable members of the Resource and Development Committee. My name is Joaquin Yates from Nambe Pueblo Winge in New Mexico. I'm the legislative staff assistant for the Office of the Speaker. Thank you very much and welcome guests.
Thank you. Do we have Mr. Filford on the call from the Office of the President, Vice President?
Good morning, Chair, members of the Resource and Development Committee and staff and everybody that's listening in. Davis Filford from Office of the President, Vice President, Executive Staff Assistant. I'll be listening in.
Thank you. Ms. Caution from OPVP.
I believe she is listening in on Nobby.
Okay, good. Mr. Leo Watchman, Department of Agriculture. Yeah, Mr. Watchman.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. Thank you for the opportunity. Leo Watchman Jr. Thank you.
Thank you. Elvina Arviso, Parks and Rec.
Good morning. This is Elvina Arviso calling from Navajo Parks and Recreation. And Mr. Begay, Martin Begay is still on emergency leave, so I will be here on the call in his place. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Arviso, for taking the time to get on this call with us. From the Department of Justice, Jordan Oglesby.
Good morning, Chair, members of the committee. Jordan Oglesby here, attorney with the Navajo Nation Department of Justice, Economic and Community Development Unit. She'e Jordan Oglesby Unishe, Tachini Nishle, Bilagana Bashachin, Deshchini Dashache, Do Bilagana Dashanala. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Mr. Douglas Capitan, Division of Economic Development.
Good morning, Mr. Chair and members of the committee. My name is Douglas Capitan. I am the Support Services Department Manager for the Division of Economic Development. My clan is Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else on the call that wishes to introduce themselves? I hear none. Number 3, reviewing and approving the agenda. Mr. Tai, could you read the agenda for us?
Chair, members of RDC, your agenda reads as follows. Resource and Development Committee of the 24th Navajo Nation Council, regular meeting, Wednesday, August 24th, 2022, 10 a.m. Presiding, Honorable Ricky Nez, Chairperson, Honorable Thomas Walker Jr., Vice Chairperson. Location via telecommunications. 1, call the meeting to order, roll call, invocation, and announcements. 2, recognizing guests and visiting officials. 3, reviewing and approving the agenda. 4, reviewing and approving the journals. August 17th, 2022, regular meeting. 5, receiving report. A, report by the Division of Economic Development on the submission of an application for the State Small Business Credit Initiative to the U.S. Department of Treasury and the requirements for the Ssbci program and the proposed resolution and the proposed Navajo Ssbci program model. Presenter, Douglas W. Capitan, Senior Program Specialist, Division of Economic Development. B, report by the Department of Parks and Recreation on the situation at Four Corners Monument with the vendors being suspended. Presenters, Martin L. Begay, Department Manager, and Alvina Arvizo, Assistant Department Manager, Department of Parks and Recs. 6, old business, none. 7, new business. Approving and directing an in-person leadership meeting with the Division of Economic Development and Natural Resources, Department of Agriculture, Department of Fish and Wildlife, and CKP Insurance to discuss the operations and viability of Wolf Springs Ranch from Monday, October 10th through Friday, October 14th, 2022 at 9 a.m. near Washingtonburg, Colorado. 8, close the meeting, announcements, and adjournment. Chair, members of RDC, that is the proposed agenda read into the record. Back to you, Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Tahi. Honorable members of RDC, let's have a motion and a second.
Motion, Chairman Freeland.
Thank you, Honorable Freeland. Second.
Second, Daniel.
Thank you, Honorable Daniels. And are there any amendments?
Chairman Keller.
Honorable Begay, you have the floor.
Chairman, good morning. Hello, RDC member. 2 requests scheduled. I'm not sure if we'll have time to discuss it, but maybe as first on the agenda, requesting to have Mr. Halona from Land Department and Mr. Charlie from the Telecommunication Regulatory Office to further explain a lot of these fees being requested to establish towers, cell tower. Because one of my chapter is being told that the tower is not going to go up when this $12,000 fee is going to be imposed. No, now yet. So, Chairman, I'd like to make that request to the committee, to the motioning party, and also the second one, Nikki. I sent a memo to you as RDC chair and RDC member to have some work session, if not HC-wide meetings for our grazing officials to conduct meetings regarding opera funding and other necessary information that they need to continue help along the local chapter. So A2 will request to the motioning party chairman to add this onto the agenda, especially the opera fund. Mr. Halona gave the first on the agenda. Chairman, thank you.
Okay, so you're going to make that motion for an amendment?
Chairman, yes.
Okay. Honorable members of RDC, there's a motion on the floor for Amendment 1 by Honorable Kiel and Begay Jr. to add a report from Navajo Land Department, Mr. Halona, as well as Navajo Nation Telecommunications Office, Mr. Tico Charlie, to explain fees for cell towers at $12,000 and others related to it.
Number 2 will be a report by Department of Ag on the grazing officials, Eastern Land Boards, are the work they do and the carryover funds and other funds related to it. So is there a second?
Chairman, I'll second that.
Thank you, Honorable Vice Chair Walker. Any comments or questions on the amendment? Amendment 1. I hear none. None.
Mr. Chair, this is Daniels.
Honorable Daniels, you have the floor.
Yes. Thank you. Kudo amendment kudo pen itza kudo nagay enda haldi kudo machine so kudo ba nate in hand every day. So nagay the other day we were out at Halchita kudo Mr. Chair to be there from Konana to do another site visit out there to meet with the go na hoti kudo Chairman Navia when he's and how the very Halchita community called to schedule another meeting out there. Nagay Halchita Adonana Kodo at that meeting. Nagay Navajo Land Department, Navajo Nation EPA, Ado Utah Navajo Development Council, aid of Mr. Curtis Yanito out of Utah Navajo Trust Fund. Invited those me. Of course, but not happening. I see that the year 120,000 and the agenda has been good up. Ever since the Gold King mine spill happened, ever since then up to now, water door he going into you a water door every day. So it is over Baba now canto let it go. It has to go down. Benani does some Kodo is by the indicator, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Daniels. In that request, Honorable Begay and Vice Chair Walker, when we met at Halchita, members are very concerned that they're forgotten about. And we did let them know that we will come back with the rest of the team, RDC, as well as the Office of the President, Vice President's Office, Representative, Navajo Land Department, Navajo Nation EPA, as well as Division of Economic Development, Mr. J.T. Willie's shop, as well as NTUA, Office of Legislative Counsel. We would like for them to look into the Utah Navajo Development Council's plan of operation, or however they operate. We would like to know what the legal organization and how it was established. We need to know what they are all about, as well as the Utah Navajo Trust Fund, as well as San Juan County Commissioners to be there at Halchita. They do have a lot of concerns, and Untitled Chapter officials. So, Honorable Begay, to have a follow-up meeting at Halchita, hopefully within a month. We would like to add this on to your Amendment 1, Honorable Begay.
Chairman, I concur.
Okay. Honorable Vice Chair Walker?
Yes, Chairman. Concurrence.
Honorable members of RDC, we're on Amendment 1. Do you have any other comments or questions? I hear none. We'll go ahead and put it to a vote. Honorable Vice Chair Walker, how do you vote?
I vote green.
Thank you. Honorable Begay?
Chairman Gale, it's green. Thank you.
Thank you. Honorable Daniels.
Green.
Thank you. Honorable Freeland.
I vote green.
Thank you. Honorable Stewart.
Green.
Thank you. We have a vote of 5 in favor, 0 opposed. Chair not voting. Motion carries for Amendment 1. Back to the main motion. Any other comments or questions?
Chairman Thomas Walker.
Honorable Vice Chair Walker, you have the floor.
Yes, Chairman, I'd like to propose an amendment to the agenda to schedule a leadership meeting to discuss the fee to trust, that process, fee land to trust land process again, that conversion, to have a leadership meeting to gain information on that whole process. Land Department present dito di that'd be my motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Honorable Stewart, is that you?
Freeland.
Honorable Freeland seconds the motion. A request for a leadership meeting in reference to trust lands and lands related to it. We'll invite Navajo Land Department and BIA. Honorable Vice Chair Walker, did you want a certain location or teleconference?
Chairman, teleconference. And then that's the fee land, Navajo fee land, the trust land conversion, that process. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. Honorable members of RDC, on Amendment 2, do you have any comments or questions?
Chairman.
Honorable Freeland.
Chairman, thank you. Could we add that update from Department of Ag on the fair? To this amendment?
Honorable Freeland, if that's your request, I'll just have to ask Honorable Vice Chair Walker for that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Honorable Vice Chair Walker, are you okay with that request to have the Fair Office provide a report on the restrictions of the upcoming Navajo Nation Fair?
Yes, Chairman.
Yes. Okay, good. I know Honorable Freeland concurs because he is requesting that. So, any other comments or questions on Amendment 2?
There, this is Daniel again.
Honorable Daniels, go ahead.
Thank you for those. Mr. Chairman Ned. Regarding yesterday's meeting with Elk Petroleum, we had chapter officials from Red Mesa chapter, and chapter then. So Navajo Navajo commission staff were also in attendance at our meeting with yesterday. So the 32-point agreement. I don't know. Can we add this to next meeting's agenda? Mr. Chair, because it requires an executive session. Mr. Chair, thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Daniels, for that. I would recommend that we have a special meeting
and take care of some of these reports. By the time we approve the agenda today, it's going to be 11 o'clock, and we're only going to have 2 hours. We can squeeze in what we can to do today, and whatever is left over, we can put it on the special meeting agenda if we could. I know Mr. Tahi is working on a follow-up meeting with Intech for the land exchange at Ninanizad. I don't know if that will happen on Tuesday the 30th, or if we could have a special RDC meeting that day. Mr. Tahi, what would be your recommendation, sir?
Chair, members of RDC, I would recommend we have a special meeting on Tuesday, September 30th, and have this a hybrid meeting. And we'll have it like how we had it last time, where we had it at the chapter house. Then thereafter, we did the meeting with Intech to do the reclamation tour. But instead of the reclamation tour, we have it with the individuals that we have designated it to be part of this leadership meeting to address the land exchange. So this way we do 2 meetings back to back, Chairman. That is my recommendation to you and to RDC.
If we were to have another tour at Ninanizad, Mr. Tahi, we can have it at 9 o'clock. So our colleagues can stay in Farmington if they wish to stay in Farmington. Would that be okay, Mr. Tahi?
Chair, members of RDC, that is fine. We just need to come to a consensus, and I would need to draft a memo for speaker's approval to have a special RDC meeting to be taken place on Tuesday, August 30th at 9 a.m. and that our regular RDC meeting will be canceled due to the NABI committee budget session that will take place on Wednesday, August 31st and Thursday, September 1st. Chair, members of RDC.
Mr. Price. If you would contact in the Untitled Chapter to make sure that there's an opening on the 30th, then we can go ahead and go with that. If not, we can meet at Upper Fruitland or San Juan Chapter. They're just right nearby as well, Mr. Tahi.
The chair, members of RDC, yes, I will work with the chapters within the community to secure the location. Back to you, Chairman.
Okay, thank you. Shananta, Honorable Vice Chair Walker, Honorable Freeland, you would like to have a leadership meeting requested. We can put that on the agenda today with the trust land, fee lands, and all that. We can do a separate leadership meeting and add it to the agenda for approval. But with the fair report, Honorable Freeland, we can have that on there on the special meeting that we will have on Tuesday, as well as the Elk Petroleum 32-point agreement to be in executive session. We could have it at that time. Honorable Daniel. So let me go to Honorable Freeland first. Honorable Freeland, with your fair report, are you okay with having it on the 30th, Tuesday?
That's fine, Chairman. Abiga, thank you.
Okay. Mr. Tahi, if you would add the fair report to Tuesday's special meeting agenda, we would appreciate it. Honorable Daniels, with your Elk Petroleum, the meeting that we had yesterday, questions that were raised, concerns about the 32-point agreement. We need to have our legal counsel as well as the Department of Justice review these documents prior to that time. So are you okay with it that we put it on the agenda for next Tuesday, Honorable Daniels?
Mr. Chair, yes, yeah, that's fine. Thank you.
Kushila. So, Mr. Tahi, if you would retrieve those documents, the 32-point agreement, as well as notify the fair office that they need to give a report on Tuesday, and then Intech as well, and in Hanzad, Mr. Tahi, for a meeting at their chapter house.
Chair, members of RDC, I make note of that. Chairman, my only concern is with the executive session regarding the 32-point. I do have the document on hand, which I can share with Ms. Khan. as well as with April Quinn, as her name was mentioned in the meeting, that she was well aware of the developments that have occurred. My only concern is if when we go into executive session, we will need to evacuate everyone from the chapter in order to have that executive session. I would feel comfortable if we schedule a separate meeting for that executive session. So this way it will be done with control that I have with my computer system. So that way I can monitor who's online and who's listening to the sensitive material that's going to be presented by the Department of Justice. Chair members of RDC, back to you.
Thank you, Mr. Tahi, for that. Honorable Daniels, with the Elk Petroleum 32-point agreement to be held in executive session, we're going to have to put that on a separate executive session meeting as soon as possible, perhaps at the beginning of September. Honorable Daniels.
Mr. Chair, yes, I'll be back.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Tai. We will have a separate executive session meeting as soon as we possibly could find a date for that. So we will scratch these two, the Fair Board and the Elk Petroleum. They will be scheduled at a separate time, but we can add it to the agenda for Tuesday for an approval of the Elk Petroleum, but we'll have on the agenda a fair report at that time. Abiga, yeah, Honorable Vice Chair Walker.
Yes, Chairman. Abiga.
Okay, Honorable Freeland.
Abiga, Chairman, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments or questions on Amendment 2? We only have one on here, which is the fee land trust land with Land Department and BIA.
Mr. Chair, this is Mariana Khan. I'd like to give you some information, give information to the committee.
Okay, Ms. Khan, you have the floor.
Members of the Resources and Development Committee, I am currently writing a resolution that is time sensitive and is in regard to a request by your colleague, Delegate Roddy, with regard to a right-of-way and temporary construction easements for US Highway 64 that has a deadline, I believe, that has to be in the hands of the state of New Mexico by September 1st. And so the 5-day comment period, if it gets dropped today, will be, it will qualify for action by Resources and Development Committee on the 30th. My only concern at this point is that there be what is the possibility of having internet connection at the chapter in which you will be plan to meet on that day. Some of the people doing the presentation for that particular right-of-way and temporary construction easement may or may not be able to meet in person. That is my concern at this point for action on this particular request, which I am still drafting and waiting for the necessary exhibits, but it is they are on a very fast timeline. I just got the request essentially yesterday, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Ms. Khan, so the legislation that is being drafted for Highway 64 for Honorable Crotty, did you say it requires a 5-day comment period? What day does it end if there is a 5-day comment period?
Mr. Chair, the 5-day comment period, if the legislation is put into the system today, the 5-day comment period will be fully completed on Monday, the 29th. It will be available for consideration by RDC on the 30th. So they will have met the 5-day comment period. My only concern is whether Ms. Crotty's agents will be able to get online to present to RDC. And I don't know if the chapter has capability for the Zoom meeting capability, Mr. Chair. If not, then I need to communicate with Ms. Crotty and her agents for this particular legislation, Mr. Chair.
Ms. Khan, they do have a internet availability at Navajo chapter. Any of the 3 chapters along the river here, Upper Fruitland and Hanzad and San Juan, they do have internet service, so that we should be able to have the agents on the call at this time. So if this legislation is drafted today, Ms. Khan, and we should be able to have it on the agenda on the 30th, and just notify Ms. Crotty to make sure that she signs off on it today.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. That's what I needed. And it looks like if everything happens correctly, it'll be available. We have met the 5-day comment period, and I will contact Delegate Crotty and let her know the current state of timeline. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you for that, Ms. Khan, for giving us a heads up. Honorable members of RDC, on Amendment 2, any other comments or questions?
Chairman?
Mr. Tahi, go ahead.
Chairman, members of RDC, just to, I guess, ease Mrs. Khan's concern is, Ms. Khan, we did have a meeting at Nunazad before. They have great internet connection, and my computer system was able to hook into their system. So both the audience and those streaming online could also hear the reports and presentations that were also going on. In addition, and I understand that the 5-day comment period, if the legislation isn't able to drop today and is dropped tomorrow with the 5-day comment period, we can still schedule a regular RDC or special RDC meeting and have the meeting start at 8 a.m. before the NABI committee budget session starts. And we can have this one single item to address because there is a deadline on it. So it will be addressed by RDC, as RDC would probably have final authority over the legislation. Chair members of RDC, that is my comments to the concerns raised by Ms. Khan. Back to you, Chairman.
Okay, thank you for that, Mr. Tahi. If the 5-day comment period does not meet by the 30th, then we can have that special, perhaps a regular meeting that morning as well on the 31st at 8 o'clock in the morning. Thank you for that. But just make sure you have all the memorandums in place for us if we need to do that. Just work with Ms. Khan on that, Mr. Tahi.
The chair members of RDC, yes, I will. Back to you, Chairman.
Okay, thank you. I believe there's no other comments or questions on Amendment 2. We'll go ahead and vote on it. Honorable Vice Chair Walker, how do you vote?
Chairman, I vote green.
Thank you. Honorable Begay?
Kiel votes green.
Thank you. Honorable Daniels?
Daniels is green.
Thank you. Honorable Freeland?
Freeland votes green.
Thank you. Honorable Freeland. Honorable Stewart?
Green.
Thank you. We have a vote of 5 in favor, 0 opposed, chair not voting. Motion carries on Amendment 2. Back to the main motion. Any other comments or questions? I hear none. Honorable Vice Chair Walker, how do you vote?
I vote green.
Thank you. Honorable Begay?
Chairman Kiel votes green.
Thank you. Honorable Daniels?
Green.
Thank you. Honorable Freeland?
Freeland votes green.
Thank you. Honorable Stewart?
Green, Chairman.
Thank you. We have a vote of 5 in favor, 0 opposed, chair not voting. Motion carries on the main motion approving the agenda. Number 4, reviewing and approving journals from August 17, 2022. Let's have a motion and a second.
Motion, Daniel. I second.
Thank you, Honorable. Thank you, Honorable Daniels. Second.
Yellen.
Honorable Begay. Thank you.
Any comments or questions? I hear none. Honorable Vice Chair Walker, how do you vote?
I vote green.
Thank you. Honorable Begay?
Kale votes green. Thank you.
Thank you. Honorable Daniels?
Green.
Thank you. Honorable Freeland?
I vote green.
Thank you. Honorable Stewart?
Green, Chairman.
Thank you. We have a vote of 5 in favor, 0 opposed, chair not voting. Motion carries. We will go down to number 5, receiving reports. Shannon, aye. So at this time, the first on the report will be report by Division of Economic Development on the submission of an application for the State Small Business Credit Initiative, Ssbci, to the United States Department of Treasury and the requirements of the Ssbci program, the proposed resolution and the proposed Navajo Nation Ssbci program model. Presenter will be from the Division of Economic Development, Mr. Douglas Capitan. You have 20 minutes, sir.
Thank you, Chair Nez, members of the Resource and Development Committee. Thank you for having me this morning to give this report. We're currently working and developing and submitting our application for the State Small Business Credit Initiative, otherwise known as Ssbci. And I'll go over a review of the program and then provide some information about the application, as well as different stipulations regarding the Navajo Ssbci program. I do have my attorney on the phone from DOJ who can assist with some technical questions if necessary, and then we can proceed. So I provided a handout for the program, for the Navajo Ssbci program, as we currently have it planned out and drafted. Right now, the program is in planning phase with regard to implementation. That'll occur likely within the next, I believe, 90 days following the approval of the program by the U.S. Treasury. So the Navajo Nation Division of Economic Development was given the green light to submit the application for funds from the U.S. Treasury Department back in November of 2021. At that time, the division director, J.T. Willie, and I had drafted a letter of intent with the notification to the U.S. Treasury Department that we plan on submitting an application for the fund. This fund has never been available to tribal nations before this. There was a prior program that was initiated back in the early 2010. That was only open to states, municipalities, counties, et cetera, but nothing available to tribal nations. So this is a first for us, as well as the nation, for us to provide this opportunity for Navajo businesses who are in need of assistance in a lot of ways, and in this particular way is with financial resources. And the Navajo Nation has that ability right now with this program to provide access to those opportunities. So this program provides federal funding to tribes like the Navajo Nation to distribute a variety of programs. These are loan programs and investment programs. So I know one of the stipulations with Ssbci's oversight, the U.S. Treasury Department, is that this is not a grant program. So any funding that does get released will need to be secured in a way that provides the awardee or the lender with the ease or understanding that they'll be repaid in some sort of capacity. So that helps us with the confidence of establishing greater relationships with financial institutions and providing better relationships with our local community organizations as well. So with the assistance of Navajo Nation Department of Justice, we've been able to draft the Ssbci application, which is due to the U.S. Treasury Department. on September 1st of 2022, so just in a couple of weeks. And the first phase will be planning and development, which we are currently underway. We have been working with a variety of different nonprofit organizations, local organizations, to help us design the program and implement a strategy as to how we're going to operate with the notion that our community organizations are experts in their field, as well as the Chamber of Commerce and other financial entities that we've involved locally. With their expertise and knowledge and relationships within the business community, we're relying on their expertise to invite others to participate within the program and collaborate, so that way we can be most effective at delivering this funding to our Navajo business owners. So Ssbci will allow the Navajo Nation to use funds to support eligible small business financing in any manner we choose. However, there are specific list of programs that are available. The Navajo Nation Division of Economic Development has began to work on 2 programs in particular that we will begin our application with. Now we're allowed to submit an application and put it in with 1 program and expand it as we move forward, just depending on the needs of our communities and Navajo business owners. A properly functioning capital and credit market helps entrepreneurs get the necessary resources to start up, to expand, to hire. As many on this committee are aware, that finding resources like money to start up a business and to grow and make improvements is difficult sometimes. And having this ability really does help our Navajo business owners. One of the main challenges is land designation. That issue can run into, can cause really immobility of the economy because of the lack of the business owner to access a loan, to access credit, so that way they can grow. Many times loans or financial institutions will require some sort of collateral, typically off the reservation or off the Navajo Nation. If you own the land or if you own a particular piece of property, you can use that property as collateral. For example, if I lived in Albuquerque, New Mexico, obviously that's not within the Navajo Nation. If I owned a home there and I wanted to get a business loan to start up a business, I would go to my financial institution. They would make this agreement with me that I would hold my property as collateral for the loan. So that way they're assured that if I ever go into default, that they'll be able to recuperate some sort of expense from me. Now, when you're moving on to tribal lands, that becomes a little different because the owner of the land really technically is not the actual person living on the land, because the land is held in trust by the federal government. So therefore, any sort of collateral is really minimal that any business owner can provide a financial institution if they're seeking out those finances. So as a solution, or at least a remedy at this moment, this program will allow the Navajo Nation to be sort of at the driving wheel of those decisions with the financial institution in tow. So with these programs, we help to provide access to our business owners who might find that challenging to find proper resources, as well as reassure our financial institutions that this business owner, we have their back, we have their financial, we have them supported financially through this program, and if there is a risk, then that really is mediated by this program. Now, with the programming and the way it works, it really provides any contracting entity that the division works with, meaning if we're working with an organization to implement this program, that program will then be the working organization that will help the business owner continue to maintain their business practice as well as the operations for their finances. The intent of this program for us when we first began was to try to remove as many of the what we consider the bureaucratic and administrative processes that allow for a lot of delays within the core of our government. So to sidestep that and make sure that we provide independence and greater autonomy to our Navajo businesses, we're contracting out bits and pieces of this particular program to our contracting entities who have the expertise and knowledge. So I know one thing from the beginning that we did ensure that we wanted was to see that any contracting entity that came in was qualified and ready to go. Within this program, after 90 days of its approval from US Treasury, the program must be implemented. So it was very important that we utilized the resources we have on hand, which means the community organizations that we currently work with, and then begin from there. Now, the programs that we are beginning with are the loan participation program as well as the loan guarantee program. The loan guarantee program is a program that provides some stability in regards to the risk of the financial institution. So with loan guarantee programs, I implement my notes really quick. Loan guarantee programs help make the lender make loans to borrowers. This can mean that, if we have borrowers who have less than stellar credit, which that is common, provides them that assurance that they will have their money guaranteed if in the event that the borrower does go into default. Most small businesses are eligible to participate in loan guarantee programs, and this includes corporations, partnerships, and sole proprietorships. They also assume that this program would also help us to assume the debt of that borrower in the event that if there was an incident or something where the borrower couldn't pay back. As you know, that we faced some challenges over these past couple of years because of COVID-19, and this was a result of this was a response, I should say, from the U.S. Treasury to assist our small businesses in one, getting access that they've never really had before, but also provide them assurance that if something occurs, then everything will be, I don't want to just say fine, but everything will be managed and taken care of. So the loan guarantee program is a way that a borrower can assure that their financial institution that they're able to receive a loan from the borrower or from the financer. Many typical guaranteed loans are federal student loans, payday loans, both some payday loans and mortgage loans. And they're usually backed by the Federal Housing Administration in those cases, or the Department of Education. So they all have a program or entity larger that's overseeing that program. In this case, ours is going to be the U.S. Department of Treasury. And loan guaranteed programs work because they help what would be considered to the financial institution a person who they don't consider really viable for a loan. But with this program, that opens up that eligibility and expands that criteria for awarding individual for business purposes. And relatively, guaranteed loans are safe for the borrower, and we'll be able to provide them with technical assistance and services to see that they manage their debt that they owe and provide them with the support as necessary. With the loan participation program, The loan participation program enables small businesses to obtain a medium to long-term financing, usually in form of loans, of course, but they help them grow and expand their businesses. Many transactions that occur with these loans are typically ones that are of investment proportion. And I know that we do have a lot of businesses that require, not necessarily huge startup costs or huge expansion costs, but the cost of equipment that's needed for them to just get that step forward, so that way they can advance within their business practices and create a greater customer base. Like all credit programs, loan participation programs can be tailored to meet our own needs, which is why I think that this particular program has been very, very exciting to think about, because I know that with the Navajo Nation in particular, after the 2020 allotment of artisan and small business grants, we found that the diversity of the Navajo Nation's economy is really unique of that from other economies like states or typically counties. And it's just because of the information that has never really been reported or existed within the Navajo Nation. So we find that we're going to need to be very creative and savvy when we're trying to meet the needs of our local business owners. Borrowers are able to see that greater, and it's similar to, I guess, to the loan guarantee program, in that borrowers will see themselves more eligible as opposed to before, if they weren't eligible for ordinary business loans. So within the loan participation program, we assist the financial institution. I just say we, but the program assists the financial institution in the loan, meaning if I were a part owner of this program, my funds would be matched with that of the financial institution. Together, this provides an assurance again to the financial institution that this person is whatever their debt is going to be fine, and they'll be able to recoup those costs. So with these two programs, we plan to have those two as our first initial programming. We will begin small with a maximum of $50,000 for the loan cap, and then progressively grow and see what we need to provide the communities as we move forward. The Ssbci funds are allocated for 10 years, which means that we'll have them until approximately 2033. And from that point afterwards, once the program has completed, whatever the loan repayment funding has been made will be allocated between the contracting entities and any of the supporting programs. So let me provide some definitions of what I'm talking about too with that. So the Department of Treasury has the organization of the program to be provided to a entity like a government, and traditionally before this program, it was the states that received the aid and provided them out. From that point, once the central main entity receives the funds, that organization or entity then is able to contract out with they can do it with financial institutions, they can do it with nonprofits, they can do it with other organizations that have the capability to provide this program out to the communities. Therefore, what we are the individuals that receive it from the U.S. Treasury, and we're going to contract out to our entities that will provide that service. From that point, those entities then work with financial institutions to do the matching funds, as well as the repayments and other accounts items that are going to be necessary with loan programs. So the Navajo Nation will not necessarily be the person collecting the loan funds back. That'll be the financial institution and contracting entities. And then there is going to be an evaluation for updates, and then progressively moving forward to reporting to the U.S. Department of Treasury as we move forward. The program is divided into 3 tranches. The 3 tranches are measures that the U.S. Treasury uses for the allotment of the next funding cycle, meaning that currently right now, the Navajo Nation is allocated 89 million, roughly mostly closer to 90 million, with regard to the amount that the program is going to be able to offer over the next 10 years. So within the first tranche, within the first 3 years, the program will receive about 29 million, I believe, as the amount we can leverage within these programs. Now, the program must expend more than 80% in order to receive the next tranche of funding. So that will require the division to work with our contracting entities to ensure that the programs are putting that money out there and getting that money utilized, as well as working to be sure that we're doing our due diligence to ensure that our borrowers and our business owners are provided the resources necessary so they can, know how to make a proper decision with regards to loans, know how the repayment process works, and proceed with, greater expanded capacity with regard to whatever service or product they're offering. And then from that point, we then are awarded another tranche for the next 2. With the second tranche being the same, we must expend 80% of the second tranche in order to move forward and get the last third tranche of our funding from the U.S. Treasury to complete our program in 10 years. Now that will need to be constantly reviewed and worked on and managed. And I think that we have for sure the capacity within our community. Our other intent of this program was to ensure that we build our community partners as a resource and strengthen their ability to provide those necessary services for our business community. And this will be from providing different opportunities like technical assistance grant money, which is available from the U.S. Treasury Department. And
Mr. Capitan?
Yes.
Mr. Capitan, how much longer do you need?
I'm almost complete.
Okay.
Okay.
About what, 5 minutes?
Yes, yeah.
Okay. Honorable members of RDC, could any one of you request 5 minutes for Mr. Capitan to complete his presentation? Honorable colleagues, may we request 5 more minutes for Mr. Capitan?
I'll be that chair. This is Daniel.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead, Mr. Capitan, 5 more minutes.
Okay, thank you. So with that, we're moving ahead with the application submission to the U.S. Department of Treasury. Currently, right now, we have a majority of it complete, and we're wrapping up some of the last items that are going to be necessary. And part of that is a requirement from our legal authority to implement a program like this and to provide that letter to the Department of Treasury, which is why we drafted the resolution that we provided through the Office of Legislative Counsel. Right now, we are currently finalizing the agreements with the contracting entities. So that's in place. And once we move forward, we have the application submitted on September 1st. We will then begin to have 90 days to implement the program, which we are confident that we are going to have that set and ready to go. And that's based off of the experience from the contracting entities portfolio of work that they've completed and have done. And these are all Navajo businesses as well, Navajo organizations that we're working with. And I'm proud to say that we have been focused on being sure that that was an essential component of our planning. Once we do have the program implemented, we'll then begin looking at other programming that is available. Like I said, we have this particular program is able to provide a different variety of characteristics that might fit the needs of our Navajo business owners. In particular, I know that we're under discussion in drafting up a plan regarding a venture capital program, and that will require some additional conversations with our investment committee, and I'm looking forward to having those conversations, as well as figuring out how to be the most effective at providing these resources to our Navajo businesses. So DD is fully invested in supporting our partners, our contracting entities who have been working very diligently on helping us to develop a program that's worthwhile for our Navajo business owners, and provide them with this very, very unordinary and very extraordinary opportunity to gain an upper hand and a step forward in their business progress. So we're looking forward to having this program up and running, and we're looking forward to the support of our council and our collective efforts to provide our support to our Navajo business owners. With that, I'm complete. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Capitan. Honorable members of RDC, let's have a motion and a second.
Freeland.
Motion. Thank you, Daniel.
Thank you, Honorable Freeland. Thank you, Honorable Daniels. Ssbci, you have any comments or questions? Going twice.
Chairman, question.
Going three times. Honorable Stewart.
Oh. Mr. Capitan, thank you for the presentation this morning on the small business loans. A couple of questions I have, and just thinking at the same time, listening to you and trying to figure out, how to ask these questions that might come out kind of mixed up or whatnot. But I have a couple of questions as well, and that one is, with these loans, how many of them will be allocated through the Navajo Nation entities? And then also, you were mentioning law firms. Are we working with the Navajo DOJ, or who are we working with the loan process as well for this 89 million? And then the other areas I wanted to ask, in working with my chapters closely and trying to figure out how to get additional funds, as well as small business owners within our area, to figure out how to have them come back up on top to where they need to be, even though we are coming out of a pandemic and they're doing the best that they can to sustain their businesses. The past 2 years has been very difficult for them. So, if these businesses go through the loans, which banks or entities have agreed to work with the nation as far as matching funds goes, or maybe an approval for their loans? And then how will we be revisiting those contracts as well with the loans? Those are some things that came to thought, and like I said, working with different entities and trying to figure out how to work with the chapters as well that I represent, and listening to various colleagues as well as speak on behalf of small business owners as well. So those are a couple of my questions at this point in time, Mr. Capitan Doshna. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Honorable Stewart. Mr. Capitan, your response.
Thank you, Chair Nez, Delegate Stewart. With the loans, we have, so the program has the funding set up to be dispersed in 3 tranches. So really, essentially every 3 years, we're going to report. And if the U.S. Treasury Department sees that we've expended 80% or more of our total allotment for that tranche, then that means we're able to move forward and get the same third of that funding from the program again. So I believe it's about 29 million total we have for the first tranche, and subsequently it'll be 29 million for the second and third. So of that, we have a goal to get the money out, which that tranche, that allocation division is set up to do. So it'll really depend on our contracting entities that we're working with to develop a strategy with how to, one, do the messaging and how to get the programming out there. The component of that is that it would be probably in the best interest to work with our contracting entities to seek out loans that will provide us with some security, but also provide a good balance of outreach as well as support for those businesses that otherwise won't be able to receive funding from any outside entity if they didn't go with our financial institutions that are contracted with our entities. So for example, let's say we have the Navajo Nation has this funding and we contract out with Organization A. Organization A can then has the relationship with a bank, local bank, or credit union, and they'll be able to work out that program. They'll be able to work out with the borrower all the necessary stipulations for the requirement. And there is no limit on the loan number. So whatever the contracting entity and the financial institution have, it's really part of the agreed to amount that we have set. So we're catering towards the smaller businesses. So really that could be any number of loans that we provide within the 3 tranches. It just depends on the need as well as the amount of loans that we provide out there. Now with the second question about the law firms, our attorneys are currently the ones at our Department of Justice within our Economic Development and Community Development Unit. And we are also utilizing outside counsel that is specialized as an expert within the Ssbci program. And then for your last question on banks, there are active conversations going on with banks and financial institutions that are near the reservation, near the Navajo Nation, and who have had a relationship with Navajo customers. So we want to make sure that we utilize those experiences. We don't want to go with anyone who has never not worked with a Navajo entity of some sort. And we're honing those relationships and developing them based off of our community partners who have been able to provide us that resource, that essential knowledge resource. So with chapters, our program administrator will work with the banks as well, but also DAD has our technical assistants that we're organizing and planning and strategizing to help with any sort of, I guess, items that might come up as it relates to either further educational programs for business owners or resources, and then any sort of negotiations or at least discussions or talks with our financial institutions. So they're going to be peacekeepers within our planning that'll help us implement the program, as well as help provide success to our Navajo business owners. Thank you.
Thank you. Honorable Stewart, do you have a follow-up question?
Yes, Chairman. Mr. Capitan, so through these loans, looking at what we're trying to do, and what you and Division of Economic Development know that where I stand with small business, and I support them and want them to succeed as well, including looking at our ranchers and our farmers.
Honorable Stewart. Honorable Stewart.
Chairman, I do see Honorable Stewart on the call. I think he's having technical difficulties on his end.
Okay. Honorable Stewart.
Chairman, can you hear me now?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay. All right, then. I think my internet went out or something. My donkey's playing with my internet. But my follow-up question to Mr. Capitan would be, with the small businesses and also with our agricultural and ranching areas, again, and knowing how some of them go out or are starting to go out, probably have gone out before as far as businesses go, through these loans, and helping them establish their businesses as well to move forward in what they want to do. Are those acceptable with these loans as a small business, the way they to the way that they would write it or interpret it for DED on that side? And then also, in working with the different entities as well within Navajo Nation, looking at our jewelers as well and trying to figure out how they would work back in with NACE, Navajo Arts and Craft Enterprises, so that we could go ahead and start selling more Navajo jewelry, authentic Navajo jewelry on that side. How can we get those jewelers back into that type of enterprise with the help of this loan as well? Can that be done? Those are just a few of my questions again. That I'm done, Chairman.
Thank you. Mr. Capitan.
Thank you, Honorable Delegate Wilson. So to answer your question, I think the only stipulation of that will be the requirement from the U.S. Treasury Department to have your business meet the definition of a small business, which is typically you have to have less than 500 employees and must be in operation within the United States. It's really a broad definition. And in those cases, what we've learned too from the grant programs is that we do have a very unique industry out there within our economy. The Navajo economy is very unlike any other economy out there because of that, because of our agricultural, because of our creativeness, because of just a whole slew of other unique properties that the Navajo Nation has. So if they meet the criteria, then that is possible that they will be able to receive financing from this program. And another, I guess, good part about it too is that the nation right now has been given a good opportunity to really advocate for those businesses that may not otherwise traditionally be thought of. But as long as we work to have them meet the definitions, then that is possible. Or to have a larger entity or a larger business plan be developed by independently to incorporate those businesses of some sort. I think that entrepreneurship is going to be really vital to this program as we see that the economy grow and our people become really good at different things and become specialized in different things as well. So Treasury will require some definitions to be met. And then from that point, it'll be really up to whomever business owner, willing public leaders to take on that entrepreneurship and develop something that benefits the intent of the program. And that's my response.
Thank you. Sanant, any other comments or questions? I hear none. And we'll go ahead and accept the report. Honorable Vice Chair Walker, how do you vote?
I vote green.
Thank you. Honorable Begay. Honorable Begay votes green according to his text message. Honorable Daniels.
Green.
Thank you. Honorable Freeland.
Green, Chairman.
Thank you. Honorable Stewart.
Green, Chairman.
Thank you. We have a vote of 5 in favor, 0 opposed. Chair not voting, motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Capitan.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yes. Moving down to B. Report by the Department of Park and Recreations on the situation at Four Corners Monument with the vendors being suspended. Ms. Alvina Arvizo, you have 20 minutes.
Yes, good morning, Chair. Again, this is Alvina Arvizo, and good morning to RDC members. In regards to the report for Four Corners Monument, I also have on the call with me is Karen Yazzie, the park manager for Four Corners Monument, and she will be available to answer any questions as we go along. In terms of the suspension of the vendors at the Four Corners location, the issue at hand had been the masks and lack of masks that were to be worn by the vendors at the Four Corners location. With everyday vendors coming in and paying their fee on a daily basis, and with the vendors basically changing on a daily basis, the Four Corners staff would go down to the park location to just basically view the vendors at each location, ensure everything was in compliance, just in terms of the vendor agreement. And part of that was complying with the mask mandate set forth by Division of Health. And that mandate has just recently been changed as of this week, which does indicate that masks can only be worn indoors, unless for outdoors they are closer than 6 feet. So we're kind of still in a gray area from that standpoint, being that a lot of the visitors that do come to the park location do not stay at a 6 feet distance. So we're still, I guess, more than likely will need to get clarification on that portion. We may still get some negative feedback from visitors and vendors with regard to that, just trying to maintain that 6 feet distance for those that are not wearing their masks. At this point, with the suspension that did take place for the vendors, the individuals had been basically told as the rotations were going through by park staff that they are to wear their masks. And through each verbal request, It had been ongoing on a daily basis, each and every day, requesting for vendors to wear masks and to ensure that they are complying with the mandate that had been stipulated again by Division of Health. So at this point, for the suspension that did take place, there is a rotation that is completed at the monument, whereas there are a number of vendors at that location. To my recollection, I believe it was 200 total vendors at the Four Corners Monument. So there is a rotation process in place to where vendors may vend basically a couple days out of the week, and then it's rotated into another round of vendors. So the number of days of the suspension, I believe, was at 14 days, which roughly comes out to 2 days, I believe. Karen, you can correct me if I'm giving the wrong information on the number of days. But with the rotation process, it basically comes out to 2 rotations. So it is not basically set at 14 days of suspension. It roughly equates to 2 days of suspension. So that is how the suspension did work. It did not notate it within the suspension letter that was issued, but there is a vendor format that was given to the vendors as to how the rotation would work. So that is available for viewing if there are any of the RDC members that would like to see that. Otherwise, as of I believe the following week or a few days after the suspension, when the vendors did come out to Parks and Recreation to meet with Mr. Martin Begay at the time he was in the office, the vendors did go in to meet with Mr. Begay at that point in time, and there was dialogue between both the vendors and then also Mr. Begay. At that time, they did request for Mr. Begay's review and just reviewing the suspension letter and get his final review on that. Mr. Begay did lift the suspension, so the vendors, to my knowledge, were not actually suspended. Again, that's just from the information that I do have. Karen may be able to give more information with regard to that. But just in light of the situation that has come up with the vendors, the vendor policy, Karen has not been upholding the vendor agreements between the vendors and the Parks and Recreation Department at Four Corners Monument. There have been a number of issues that have come in, complaints that have come in among the vendors, and Karen has just, in a sense, stepped back just because of the issues raised when Parks and Recreation does get involved in these disputes. So we've kind of had to pull back with regard to what the vendor agreement states and just request that they are, in a sense, orderly within their vending locations and adhere to basically Navajo Nation laws and moving forth from that point. There also has been other dialogue that has come in from the Ute Mountain vendors and the Alliance as well. So this is not just a Navajo Nation location for vendors. There's other stakeholders in this facility as well. So that's kind of where we had a meeting with Office of the President and Vice President roughly 2 weeks ago by phone, and the Four Corners Alliance at that time did speak to their grievances, and President was on that call, and we did indicate and speak to some of the issues at that point in time. On that phone call, there were grievances with the restroom facilities there, the upgrades and renovations that are overdue at that location. So I did give a lot of background information as to what we have done, what we are working toward, and what we will be doing at that location. So that is my report. If you have any questions for myself or for Karen, we are both on the call. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Arviso. Ms. Yazzie, Karen Yazzie.
you like to add?
I do not have anything to add. I was only going by the policy that we had on hand. And then also when we reopened July 8th of 2021, there was a memo that was given to all the vendors. And in that memo, I gave a copy to Albina for documentation that that if they're not wearing a mask, that they would be suspended 2 terms, which, you know, if you just look at it, the 14 days, you would think, yes, it's 14 days, but it actually says 2 vending days, 2 vending terms. So they were only suspended, as Alvina indicated, 2 days, but you know, it wasn't, you know, the total 14 days, but there were, it does indicate 2 terms. And so if you want to look at that memo, Alvina has a copy. And other than that, after this incident, there have been other issues happening down at the monument. But I haven't done anything because the memo that the Business Alliance sent to me stating that they didn't want to renew the orientation. And so, which left me with my hands tied behind my back. I can't discipline furthermore because there hasn't been an orientation. And so some of the stuff that have been going on is harassment among the vendors themselves. And I did indicate to Ms. Arvizo that I wasn't going to do any disciplinary action, even though that harassment is not tolerated. But because there's no orientation, which they do not want, I'm not doing any disciplinary actions at this time. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Ssbci. Honorable members of RDC, let's have a motion and a second on the report by Parks and Rec.
Chairman, I'll motion Freeland.
Okay. Second.
Honorable Freeland. Thank you, Honorable Freeland. Honorable Daniels. Any comments or questions? Dashman, I just kid. Shananta, I do have a question here for Ms. Yazzie as well as Ms. Arvizo. Do you have any signs up over there that requires everybody to wear a mask? And if so, how many signs are up on the premises at Four Corners Monument? And you did mention that an orientation can be provided. Has it been scheduled before? Those are my 2 questions. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, this is Phil.
Okay, this is Karen.
Karen?
Yes, thank you, Chair, and honorable representatives of the council. We do have signs posted as they come in. We have a fee booth where everyone pays. There are numerous signs that mask wearing is required. And then we do have an electric sign right after the fee gate that says mask required. And then we do give out the public health orders when they're emailed to us, and we give them to the Alliance, and we give copies to the vendors that are there that day. And then for the next 2 days, the vendors that come in, we give them a copy of the public health orders. And then we also had signs down at the monument. It was a vinyl sign, and it got torn up, and we had to take it down because it wasn't you know, holding its position. And so we did order through our media rep for new signs, but they're still being processed from what I was told. So we have not put another sign down at the at the monument, but like daily, we staff go down to the monument. We make our rounds, and when before the when we were still at 50% and 75% capacity, we used to go down and remind everyone that they needed to wear a mask, including the visitors. And so, you know, someone does go down there to let them know that there is still a mask mandate. And numerous times have we gone down to the monument that we find a lot of vendors don't wear their mask. And most times they would wear it under their chin. And so when they see you walking towards them, that's when they pull up their mask real quick. And a lot of them just don't, you know, they don't wear the non-surgical facial mask. They wear the neckerchief type, or those ones that you just pull over your face. And so, you know, and they've been reminded, like I said, on a daily basis, and each staff can attest to that. And so, you know, we're not just, we're not harassing them in any way. We were only enforcing the public health orders for their safety. That's all we ask. And you know, the Kwidisha, you know, we remind people on a daily basis. And so, you know, we were only enforcing the public health orders. But you know, had somebody said not to enforce the orders, you know, in that way, we would have never done that. But over.
Thank you. And also, Ms. Arviso, earlier you stated we need clarification on these policies because obviously it's an outdoor area except for the shaded areas. It seemed like there's a wide open space there. I was there 2 days ago and I've noticed the vendors were wearing their mask, but it was towards the closing time. And what clarification can we clear up? Perhaps consult with Mr. Martin Begay that all this is going on as well as at Canyon de Chelly, Monument Valley, and Little Colorado River vendors over there at Cameron. Perhaps it needs to cover everybody. And on this clarification about outdoors, that's a really good question. Perhaps that's one of the areas that need to be cleared up, whether these booths are considered outdoors. And I've noticed the majority of the visitors that were at Four Corners 2 days ago, none of them were wearing a mask. And I'm wondering if that applies to them. Ms. Arviso?
Yes, I agree with your question, Chair. That is, you know, a request that I've had since we've had these situations arise with the parks. All park locations have basically adhered to the mask mandate and have been enforcing that at all locations. But as we're moving closer to less and less people wearing their masks, then it's harder and harder for us to enforce that and request that of not only our vendors, our tour operators, but also more importantly, our visitors. So on a daily basis, we're asked, why do we still have to wear a mask? So with that, you know, with this new change to the health order, it does, again, pose a gray area because with the vendors, you know, as people, you know, rotate through the visitors, as they rotate through the vendors, you know, they're in close proximity. So if that's being the case, we have to keep them, that would be a question. Would our park staff have to keep that 6 feet, you know, distance between each vendor and each of the visitors? Or is that, you know, a mandate for the vendors to maintain that? So that would be a question that we would pose. And most times, you know, we'll ask the question of Again, when I was on the call with Office of the President, I did ask at the time, President was on the call, and I didn't get an answer to my question. Do we continue with the mask mandate? So at this point, we would more than likely have to reach out to Division of Health, which we've done in the past, and basically we're just referred back to the mandate that was issued. So gray areas are not answered specifically for Parks and Recreation. So if we can maybe get upper management, meaning division and Office of the President to help us get this clarification so we can, adhere to it out there at each park location, that would really alleviate a lot of the tension between each of the vendors, tour operators, and the visitors that come to our parks on a daily basis. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Ms. Arvizo. As Leadership, Resources, and Development Committee, we're not here to condemn anyone, but we're here to offer a solution as to how we can resolve these gray areas. If it's an outdoor area, do they really need masks? Because what I've observed is a lot of these visitors were walking in without any masks, but the vendors were wearing masks even though they were outside under a shade area. And that's kind of confusing to everybody. So we do need perhaps Department of Justice also to make these clarifications on outdoor areas like where Four Corners is at, maybe Monument Valley and other areas. So we're going to need some sort of clarification. And if you would pass the word on to Mr. Martin Begay, and have him perhaps contact Mr. Robert Allen, because you guys are under DNR and that's your attorney there, or Department of Justice to make these clarification on, maybe there's other areas that need to be resolved so there's no problems. When something like this happens, nobody gets suspended. Everybody is on the same page, and let everybody know that these are the mandates. The new mandates, which needs to be clarified. So something like that, it is, we don't want things to create problems for our vendors or our staff as yourself, but we just hope that y'all work together and be fair to each other in these areas. The vendors, they're there selling their products so they could support their families as well. Some of them don't have jobs, so that's where they go. So I would be very understanding of their situations. But an understanding needs to be in place to clarify what the mandates are for outdoor areas like that. So Ms. Arvizo, and make sure you get back with Mr. Begay and perhaps have that clarification made as well. So thank you very much. Honorable members of RDC, any other comments or questions?
Mr. Chair, this is Philfred.
Honorable Philfred, go ahead.
Chair, members of Resource and Development Committee, these vendors, I met with them. They asked for my assistance. And at the same time, you came up with this, we added onto the agenda. Because these vendors, it happened at a time when their kids are going back to school. And, they're out there wanting to buy clothes and supplies for their kids. There's such a thing called just a verbal warning, not 14, 20 being suspended at one time. It's too harsh of a penalty. Everything does, people think, no. That's what the fundamental laws are in place. It all come us to go over our street only. But that there's I'm glad that it's lifted. Because these people, they're there way before we even get up They start out from their home in the early hours and they're in line and they're there till and 5 o'clock. I think the arms aren't closed. There's a lot of issues that they want to talk about, and I don't know how we're going to do it. But concerns. Oh, you. They mention it this again. Thank you, Chair.
Kushila, thank you, Mr. Wilfred. We do agree with the fundamental law. Make sure you're wearing it. Verbal warning, yes, that is, it should be the first resort. We don't want to suspend anybody, but we want you all to be aware that there's an agreement in place with the vendors that no, and we have signs up here and there that tells us if some signs were wore down and blown away, perhaps new signs need to be put up. So, but if we just say that to everybody, including the vendors, I mean the visitors, then they're not going to want to be there as well. So, we try to generate revenue sometimes, and then we put in laws in place that just kind of doesn't help at all. So we hope that this pandemic will be gone and blown away shortly, so we don't have to be in this predicament. So honorable members of RDC.
Yeah, if I may.
RDC. RDC. None. We'll go ahead and accept the report. Who's this? Who's this? Who's this?
Excuse me, sir.
Yes.
My name is Yate. My name is Yolanda Limon, and the gentleman that was just on his name is Paul Lansing, and he is the vice president of the Four Corners Business Alliance, and I'm also a part of the Business Alliance there at Four Corners. I'm the secretary and treasurer, and if I could, I would just like to make a really brief statement. I'll keep it short.
Honorable members of RDC, are there any oppositions to having the Secretary Treasurer from the Four Corners Alliance to speak briefly? I hear none. Go ahead, Madam Secretary. You have the floor. Make it short. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, sir. I just wanted to let Karen know, from the Business Alliance's side, that the day after that we had the meeting with Mr. Martin Begay, we did go back to all the vendors and we had a short vendor meeting with the vendors that were set up that day to reiterate the mask mandate. So, it's not something that we're, a lot of these vendors are consciously trying to go against, but I haven't been out for a couple of weeks, but I do know our president of the Business Alliance and the vice president have been, going to those that haven't, that they see that aren't wearing their mask, and, going up to those individuals and reminding them, we still have a mask mandate. We need to make sure that we're all working together. And I think we're all on a consensus that, we would like to work with Karen. And I think a lot of it is just miscommunication. As vendors, we do our best to also try to remind visitors you're on the Navajo reservation. We still have a mask mandate. If you could please wear your mask. And yes, just like with the park employees, we do get pushbacks from some of those visitors that don't want to wear their mask. But rather than getting into an argument, with people, we just kind of, let it be, and then thank those that do wear their mask. So it's not that we're wanting not to work with the park management. It's just, I think we kind of need to all come to a consensus, and it just better communication. And then also just trying to work together. And that's our objective. We do our best to maintain the park and help the park employees maintain the park when they're short-staffed, taking trash, cleaning, picking up trash. So, that's just something that I would like to say really quick. And thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Honorable members of RDC, any other comments or questions? We'll go ahead and accept the report. Honorable Vice Chair Walker, how do you vote?
Chairman, I vote green.
Thank you. Honorable Begay?
Chairman Keller was green. Thank you.
Thank you. Honorable Daniels?
Green.
Thank you. Honorable Freeland?
Green.
Thank you. Honorable Stewart? Honorable Stewart? We have a vote of 4 in favor, 0 opposed. Chair not voting. Motion carries. We'll accept the report from Parks and Rec. Thank you very much, Ms. Arvizo, Ms. Yazzie, and to all the vendors out there. Thank you. We'll go down to C, Navajo Land Department, Mr. Halona, as well as Navajo Telecommunications, Mr. Tico Charlie, to provide a brief report on cell towers, as well as the fees that go along with it of $12,000. The area of Low Mountain, so Mr. Halona, you'll have 20 minutes with Mr. Charlie.
Good afternoon.
Yes, go ahead.
Chairman Nez, members of the Resource Development Committee, I guess just briefly, since we're going to share the 20 minutes, I guess at this point today, we are waiting on finalizing the telecom communication regulations. Something that we've been working on since 2016. We got it finalized pretty much. We got some help from outside sources in the industry. And then we finished those regulations, and then we start working with NNTRC, because there are 2 parts in the regulation. One side is about land, obtaining land, and then the other side is the operational side, type of equipment, frequencies they operate on, which is under NNTRC. So after we finish the regulations, then NNTRC were given those regulations to address all of their needs and concerns to be able to provide better services on Navajo. So it took about almost a year, probably a year and a half. And then the commission finally passed a resolution accepting those resolutions with their legal team. So then those were finalized and then submitted into the 16, ready to be sent into the 164. And so NNTRC was working with with their attorneys, outside attorneys and DOJ attorneys, and the DOJ attorney was I don't know where they went, but a new person came on board, so they got took over the regulation review and not knowing all the discussions we've had for over 6 years, 7 years, and the work sessions we've had, not being a part of that, of course, had some questions. So all of those questions were then put into a memo format. The legal team got involved, provided information, and they're supposed to have a final meeting, all the attorneys, meaning DOJ, NNTRC, and our legal partners, which is Vertical Bridge, providing guidance on the regulation. So they're supposed to have one last meeting to answer all those concerns, make adjustments where need be, and then those regulations will be coming to RDC for approval and establishing those regulations for all telecommunications. Inside those regulations is the rental fees, how much should be paid. And so once those regulations are passed, then fees and rental amounts will be set based upon location of towers, antennas, monopoles, or whatever they're using for the instrument of getting cell service, broadband, wireless, telephone, all of that technology will then be used. Those regulations will clearly have those different types of requirements, and then the rental on them would fluctuate based on location. If you have a tower in a location such as right along I-40, all that traffic comes through those towers, which is pretty expensive for the nation to put a rent on. It's probably more than $12,000 for those towers along I-40. For tower in Low Mountain or somewhere else, it will probably be reduced because it's going to go by the number of customers that it serves, and so it'll fluctuate. And that's what we don't have now until these regulations are done. So what we do have is the old regulations. Back in 2005, RDC took the tower rental fees at that time was $24,000 per tower. No matter where it was $24,000. That you laying down. 2005, the new legislation came out for reducing those rates so they could bill out Navajo. And at that time, the industry said $12,000 a tower, so they cut it in half. Co-locations are going to be $2,000 without me. So RDC cut those rates in half in 2005 at the request and recommendation of industry that were operating telecom companies. So up to now, that's what those rates are, is $2,000 for co-locating and $12,000. And that hasn't changed. And, there are still a lot of companies that are not adhering to that, are not getting leases, they're not paying rental to the Navajo Nation. So that is where we are at on telecom. So the Low Mountain, a tower was proposed for Low Mountain, and we explained the telecom regulation of it, the legislations that are in place says they have to get a lease. There's a telecom lease that has been formulated by the nation, and they complete all the requirements for a lease, and they pay a rental, which is $12,000, based upon all the regulations. Legislations prior to. NTUA did not want to pay nothing. We said we're not going to pay nothing when this tower goes up. We're not. They don't want to pay anything. So that's what it boils down to. But there's no provisions in any of our legislations to allow that. So we said these regulations are that have been drafted. They're still being reviewed. Still needs to go to our NNTRC for their approval and their acceptance and their support. Autos can go to RDC. Auto RDC, you're not cleaned out. Then we'll have the ability to say, okay, let's do a analysis of what kind of customer base you'd have there, and we could set a rate. And then agree to it that whatever the regulations come out to, then you'll pay. Not need. So we've been given options, and they still don't want to build a tower. Mind you, this is not their money as far as we're not asking them to invest into the towers. Those funding were available by CARES Act money. So there's no investment put in from the company. So it shouldn't be really a problem of economics or financing it because it's all paid for. But another cell company put another tower a little bit further to the west. They paid $12,000. They put the tower up. They've just been trying to get power to it. I don't know if they ever got power to it, but now to do it right inside Low Mountain with no lease, there's only one option, is that they build a tower using the money that's given to them by the Navajo Nation, and that tower then belongs to the Navajo Nation. But then we won't need a lease. Whoever wants to get on that tower, they come to the Navajo Nation and they get to co-locate on that. That's another solution. So we've given options, we've given solution. We can hire another company to build a tower for Low Mountain. We can do that too. Report is clear. Thank you, Chairman Nelson.
Thank you, Mr. Halona. Mr. Charlie? Mr.
Yes,
Tico Charlie.
Thank you, Chairman Nez. Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
I want to thank you also for the quick, we'll be giving a real quick report. We are working with the Navajo Nation Land Department. I've been working with Mike Colonna, a lot of these things that were going on. And our DOJ, mind you, yes, she did just come aboard, but I was impressed with how fast she's picking up real quick. There's a lot of language in there that needs to be changed. They're working on that right now. So our attorney is working with her, and we're also working with Vertical Bridge. We're trying to speed up process here, as you all heard from Mike Colonna, that there's a lot of towers out there that, let me just put it this way, they shouldn't be there, but they're there. So we got to make things right. And this new tower leasing portion will make a big difference because a lot of the industries don't want to come across because it's too costly. But that's part of the business portion on the reservation. And we're trying to streamline a lot of it on there. So the land department has been working with us on this, and we're trying to speed up process on there. And you pretty much heard what Mike was saying on there. Low Mountain was very interesting. NTA did come back, and when the Navajo Nation president and I were out there looking at it, they did stated that they were going to have it completed in July. When we went out there and looked at it, there's nothing has been moved. So we approached NTA again, and they gave us their economic portion on there. I came back and said that should have already been done prior to that, but you already received CARES funding. And that's why you have funding to take care of the rural areas. So they're pretty much well aware of it, and we're working with them to see where we can go with these things on there. And that's just kind of a quick summary of our report.
Thank you, Mr. Charlie. Okay, honorable members of RDC, let's have a motion and a second.
Chairman, on motion, Freeland.
Honorable Freeland, thank you. Second. Keelan, thank you. Honorable members of RDC, any comments or questions?
Chairman Keelan.
Honorable Begay, you have the floor.
Chairman Hiadolis Kodo, floor Shahosaki. Ado Kodo, Mr. Lona, and then Mr. Charlie Kodo, Banasof Snaggy. Chairman, this is an overall situation that we will be dealing with as far as Kodo, Itashi, the Nanziniki cell tower. If it's going to be happening at Low Mountain, what's the chance of it happening at the rest of the community? If the rental fee is going to be an issue by NTUA, CARES funding based on Ziniki Hatalia. This is federal funding in terms of being a public funding. But yet they continue to say that we need to do this in order for us to serve our Navajo people. I mean, we allocated almost $120 million for broadband, $120 million. But yet we can't even establish a telecommunication for our community. I mean, how much of it technically goes to them automatically? Because that community, Low Mountain, was part of the data in receiving a lot of these funding. But yet, telecommunication, and the one thing that kind of having the public making statement is that there was a statement made by the OPVP back in May or June that this particular tower or this particular location will have a working tower by mid-July. But we're almost at the end of August and still nothing hasn't even been done yet. NTUA did make a report back to the local chapter. That was their main reason that they're not going to move forward because they're not going to subject themselves in signing a lease to say that we're going to be paying $12,000 a year. I'm trying to ask the chapter. I mean, companies maybe they're willing to help. The NTUA, why can't you just utilize, there's an emergency legislation that's in place right now still. While we know that we're still on the COVID-19 emergency situation. So Chairman, the RDC member, the community continues to be suffering in a way. Other school start not that Again, they're being left out in online classes. Of course, if NTUA is just looking at funding as their business, I don't believe they're really making an effort to provide service to the Navajo people. So I believe that NTUA needs to make a report to the Resources and Development Committee specifically that if this is their own funding, yeah, and that's understandable. But forward now and has quite no. And yet in yard and then the has a coco if not coco halate as a committee chairman as far as the 164 process document initiated I mean, how soon and how fast can that be that the RDC implement that? Could we introduce it as an emergency, or could we just give a provision to the community of Low Mountain to say that establish a tower? Or do we take a step back and say, okay, we're just going to RFP out and see if any company out there can establish these towers at these needed locations across the Navajo Nation? The towers established, ready to go. Mr. Halona, okay, we got a tower there. Those that want to locate on there, have at it. But this is the term and condition that's on Senegal. Like for example, NTUA obiche hul ingo o yego ye to hotni ho yande to khata naso a quacky kishit. What's the purpose of us appropriating $120 million, but yet they're worrying about $12,000 a year? And I like Chairman, I want to expedite in getting that done. I mean, what's the solution other than just waiting around to see if this document will come forth to the RDC within months to come? Opera funding approve it a co-regional chapters because and how much of it is really going to the NTUAW? But yet they're making this particular situation or statement comment about the one of the community that I represent. And I'm not sure what else to say or what else to and now in later contanade the and has the nego go and we've been to Low Mountain. And if the president is making a statement that there should be and needs to be, but as of today and as of yesterday, NTUA said they're not going to do it. But there's a tower structure that's been it's just erected there with the other materials just laying around right beside that particular structure. So for somebody just to take it as well. I mean, I believe that they should be cited for that too, just leaving these materials laying around with anyone or somebody else just to take them. So that's the situation, Chairman. And I like for me or for us as a committee to have another meeting specifically with NTUA or bringing all the carriers okay, this is what we need to do in order for us to move forward in establishing communication across the Navajo Nation. So if Lone Mountain is in this situation, I mean, why is it that there's several, one or two of them, that they had a celebration of a tower that got into operation? No, I mean, Diego Shatik Ashe, because on several chapter community, Ajik a tower bayats, no Vayata Tio, a crochet could the instant. Halahot, a quadrillo mount, like a late out of ne, nan yet don banaho tilt in the dot netoyata honisenta. That's what I'm feeling right now, Chairman. I believe we got to take a step up for the local community. I need your help. I need your recommendation. I need your input. Chairman, Ashonda. Well, we'll just have to wait for the policy to kick in. But how long will that take? So that's one thing that if the OPVP didn't have made that statement, it probably would have been at least okay to just, okay, we got policy going. But if the statement was made that within a month it will be up and running without needle, I mean, who's there being blamed? Which is me, because what I don't need. No, I didn't make that statement. But I'm being labeled that you're making a false statement to the community. Should don't need. So a quacky get Allah Nisto Kodojo Shita then this the president's office then a Dadan the Kodos staff that you able to area able to no, I mean if there's direct communication to the president's office, why isn't nothing being done? And that's what Low Mountain chapter was saying. I mean, if you're making a direct communication with the president, but yet why am I trying to push this as well? So a quacky, a chairman, and I appreciate it. Yeah, well, I'm not just saying this to set aside the policy. I'm sure there needs to be a policy in place to operate any different structures that are being operated on the Navajo Nation. But funding is being available, funding has been available, and then the CARES funding. And that's what Mr. Tom Botero have made it known. Another cell tower. I believe the NTUA is technically making it hard to get the electricity over there because that's one of their competitors. The tower, So I believe that we really need to put NTUA on the public statement for them to clarify a lot of these things that's not really being known to the public. So it is mainly these people that are receiving, or the companies that are receiving these funding, that they're just turning around and say that, well, these are the conditions that we have to meet in order for me to do this infrastructure or to do this project. It's just dragging on. So I'm sure there's people out there, some companies is willing to help the people and not look at the funding. So I believe that we can move in that fashion. Probably just say, okay, we're letting you guys go, and let's have send out an RFP, and then start having these companies establish these towers. According to that companies, and that's the reason why I kept asking the Legislative Council, co-location, roaming agreement, the key. Ended. Those needs to be in condition. But that legislation hasn't been developed yet. But I could go on and on, Chairman. But I'm upset and just frustrated, and I'm not sure what else to say. And I did talk to you about it. But again, I mean, at least I know. I just want to be on record that I have been advocating and saying this on behalf of the community of Low Mountain. But it's just not Low Mountain. It's all 110 chapters. every chapter, every agency that we're representing, a lot of our community are in the dark in terms of technology and having access to make calls to their health care, to their public safety, to emergency situation and education, and the list goes on of what today's modern social economic is. Then is everything is just cut off if our Navajo people or community doesn't have these telecommunication infrastructure in their location. So with that, Chairman, I apologize for the tone, but nonetheless, I mean, that's the 1, 2, 3 more times of the tone that we get from the local community members. But then again, I need recommendation from the NTRC. I need recommendation from Land Department. I need recommendation from the President's Office. I need recommendation from RDC. And who else do I need to ask for a recommendation? Otherwise, even if I drop a legislation, every time that I drop a legislation, it's always being referred back, or it's always being and I'm afraid that will happen. What's the use of going through the legislation knowing that it's going to be referred back or it'll be defeated? So with that, Chairman, I'd like to yield the floor back. And again, I apologize.
Thank you, Honorable Kealan Begay Jr. There's no need to apologize for a very serious concern at Low Mountain, who's been requesting a cell tower. The money was made available to NTUA, as you stated, from the CARES Act. If they don't want to use the money, we can request a legislation to take that money back and give it to competitors that are willing to put it on the Navajo Nation. One other thing that Mr. Halona had stated was that if the Navajo Nation pays, then it will be owned by the Navajo Nation. The Navajo Nation can own it, and any others that want to co-locate on it can pay the Navajo Nation. It will be revenue generated by the Navajo Nation, which is a plus. You're more than welcome to request this legislation. But before we move on here, Mr. Halona, is this $12,000 an annual fee or a one-time fee? And for how long, Mr. Halona?
United States Chairman, there's Resource Development Committee, Ssbci Delegate Begay. I need the Ssbci cut. Oh, it's so hard, Nico. When's our holiday? I didn't get that. And your daughter needs to have done it. By hints. The annual the fee is an annual fee. They pay every year. Got that.
Annual fee of $12,000 a year?
Yes, annual fee of $12,000 a year. So all that revenue that's being generated is annually. Is something that we can count on when we give projections on revenue generation. As the report will also show is that I think we've already brought back in about $1.3 million of back rent that was owed by some of these other companies that haven't been paying. So they're able to get caught back up because we're now tracking every tower and who's paying and who's not. So we have all that information. Got that? Those are what we are working with. So it's an annual payment, and based upon the regulations that are when they become approved, some will probably pay less than $12,000, and then there's some towers that will pay more than $12,000. I suppose
Okay, thank you. Honorable Kealan Begay Jr., we will go ahead and
perhaps at the next meeting, very soon, have NTUA report on this situation at Low Mountain. We need some answers as to what they're going to do with $120 million that really belongs to the people. The people meaning your community and the children that go to school that want to do their homework utilizing the internet. That's what it's for. Low Mountain has So what we will do, Honorable Begay, is have NTUA provide a report to RDC and disclose how much money, how much of this 120 has been spent, and why they are not willing to pay $12,000 annually once the tower is set up. We will find out some more when they do come before leadership. As far as recommendations from Land Department, Telecommunications, OPVP, they should be on the line at that time to also answer questions if we need them to answer questions. If we need to have a separate leadership meeting with NTUA, we can do the same as well. But currently, we can have a report by NTUA to RDC. And plus, Mr. Halona, if you would send us an email on these telecom regulations again that need to come before RDC, we would gladly look at it as well. And if I need to sponsor this legislation, I'll be glad to do that as well. We have Navajo Nation Council special session starting in 6 minutes here. Any other comments or questions?
Chairman?
Yes, Mr. Tai.
I reached out to NTUA. Mr. William Murray is supposed to be on the call to answer any of the questions that Delegate Kealan Vigay has to ask of them. I believe they are on the call. Back to you, Chairman.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Murray, are you on the call? NTUA, are you on the call?
Yes, sir. This is Ssbci Ansari, NTUA Communication System Project Manager.
What is your name again?
It is Ssbci Ansari, and I work directly under Mr. Murray, and I can address any questions that the RDC may have.
Okay, what we would like to do is to have NTUA provide a report. Unfortunately, we don't have enough time here today, but when you prepare your report, we're going to make sure that you report as to why NTUA refuses to utilize the CARES Act money of $120 million to use that money to have a cell tower established at Low Mountain that has been requested now for a couple of years and nothing has happened. And if that money is something that you don't want to use, leadership is more than welcome to take that money and create a legislation to have another allocation for another service provider to pretty much locate in that area. If the $120 million is not being used by NTUA, we can allocate these monies to other areas. So we would like to have some answers as to why NTUA is not willing to establish a cell tower at Low Mountain and perhaps at other locations throughout the Navajo Nation as well. Sir?
Thank you for that question, sir. Mr. Murray is joining the call as we speak, as well as our head of business development, Mr. Monroe Quito. With respects to why the tower has not been built, I would feel more comfortable with them addressing that. We do have a presentation that we would like to offer.
Okay, thank you for that. What we will do is add you to the agenda for the next RDC meeting to provide a report. Thank you very much.
Honorable members of RDC, any other comments or questions? None. Honorable Vice Chair Walker, how do you vote?
I vote green.
Thank you. Honorable Begay?
Chairman Kell was green.
Thank you. Honorable Daniels?
Green.
Thank you. Honorable Freeland?
Green.
Thank you. Honorable Stewart?
Green.
Thank you. We have a vote of 5 in favor, 0 opposed, chair not voting, motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Halona. Mr. Charlie Akeha. We're on B, where I believe we're done with reports. We're down to new business. Number 6, old business, none. Number 7, new business. Approving and directing an in-person leadership meeting with the Divisions of Economic Development of Natural Resources, Department of Agriculture, Department of Fish and Wildlife, and CKP Insurance to discuss the operations and viability of Wolf Springs Ranch from Monday, October 10th to Friday, October 14th, 9 a.m. daily near Walsenburg, Colorado. This is also near West Cliff, Colorado. I'd like to have a motion and a second.
Here, I motion. Second, Daniel.
Thank you. We have a motion by Honorable Vice Chair Walker, Honorable Daniel, second. Any comments or questions? Honorable Vice Chair Walker, how do you vote?
I vote green.
Thank you. Honorable Begay votes green according to his text message. Honorable Daniels?
Green.
Thank you. Honorable Freeland?
Green.
Thank you. Honorable Stewart?
Green, Chairman.
Thank you. We have a vote of 5 in favor, 0 opposed, chair not voting, motion carries on this meeting at Wolf Springs Ranch. B, we're still on new business, trust land and fee lands concerns, leadership meeting with Land Department and BIA. And let's have a motion and a second, and we'll have Mr. Tahi give us some dates. Honorable Daniels. Second by Honorable Freeland. Mr. Tahi, do you have a date for us?
Chair members of RDC, at the moment, I would recommend that we have this on Friday, September 23rd. Tentatively, it could move up based on RDC's continuing schedule. That would be the soonest at the moment. The chair members of RDC, that is my recommendation.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. We'll have that on the 23rd at 9 a.m. Honorable Daniels, do you concur? Okay, thank you. Honorable Freeland? Okay. Any comments or questions? None? Honorable Vice Chair Walker, how do you vote?
Here, I vote green.
Thank you. Honorable Begay votes green according to his text message. Honorable Daniels?
Green.
Thank you. Honorable Freeland?
Green.
Thank you. Honorable Stewart?
Green.
Thank you. We have a vote of 5 in favor, 0 opposed, chair not voting, motion carries. All others will be added on to the agenda for next Tuesday, the 30th, as well as any and a legislation for Honorable Crotty that Ms. Khan had mentioned earlier. We're at the close of our meeting. Any other announcements? Motion to adjourn.
Freeland.
Honorable Freeland, thank you. Second by
Stewart.
Honorable Stewart. Any comments or questions? None. Honorable Vice Chair Walker, how do you vote?
Chair, I vote green.
Thank you. Honorable Begay votes green according to his text message. Honorable Daniels.
Green.
Thank you. Honorable Freeland.
Green.
Thank you. Honorable Stewart.
Green, Chairman.
Thank you. We have a vote of 5 in favor, 0 opposed. Chair not voting, motion carries. We are officially adjourned at 1:03 p.m. You all be safe. May God bless each and every one of you. We have a special session that we will switch over to at this time. Thank you. Appreciate your participation.